There's a specific kind of comfort in the routines we've held on to for decades. You step into the bathroom, close the door against the rest of the world, turn the dial until the water is that perfect, steamy hot, and just stand there, letting it wash over you. It feels good. It feels safe. If you've been bathing the exact same way for 40%, 50, or 60 years, it's hard to imagine that something so completely normal, something you do on autopilot every single day, could be quietly working against you. But our bodies don't stay the same. The way your skin, your heart, and your blood vessels react to a simple hot shower at 65 or 70 is very different than how they handled it at 35. You might not notice it as a sudden, dramatic event. Instead, it's a subtle shift, a little extra fatigue when you finally dry off and put your bathrobe on. A dry, itchy patch of skin on your shins or your back that just won't go away. No matter what kind of lotion you buy. A brief, unsettling moment of lightheadedness when you reach down for your towel. We often write these things off, don't we? We sit on the edge of the bed, feeling a bit winded, and we just say to ourselves, well, I'm just getting older. That's just how it is. But a lot of the time, it's not just age itself. It's the fact that we are still applying the habits of our younger years to a body that plays by a completely new set of rules today. And when it comes to how we bathe, there are a few daily habits that feel incredibly right, deeply familiar, but might actually be doing the exact opposite of what you want them to do. Let's start with the very first thing you do when you step into the bathroom. You reach for that handle, and you turn the water up. For a lot of us, a shower isn't a real shower unless it's practically scalding, especially if you have a bit of arthritis, or if your lower back is feeling stiff when you wake up. That deep, penetrating heat feels like a miracle. It loosens up the joints. It melts away the tension. And for a moment, you feel limber and relaxed. But there is a hidden cost to that intense heat. And it's something most of us never even consider until we start feeling the side effects. When you stand under very hot water, your body has to figure out a way to manage that sudden spike in temperature. To cool you down, your blood vessels start to widen and expand. It's like opening up all the floodgates at once. When those blood vessels open up so widely, your blood pressure naturally drops. Now, if you were 30 years old, your heart would instantly and easily compensate for this. It would just pump a little harder, tighten things back up, and you wouldn't feel a thing. But as we cross that 60 or 5-year mark, our cardiovascular system doesn't pivot as quickly as it used to. It takes a little longer to adjust. So, while you are standing there, enjoying the steam, your heart is actually working much harder just to keep your blood pumping up to your brain. This is why so many older adults step out of a hot shower feeling strangely exhausted, or why you might feel a sudden wave of dizziness when you bend down to wash your feet or grab a dropped bar of soap. You aren't just relaxing in there. You are inadvertently putting your circulatory system through an endurance test. And that brings us right to the second thing we often do without thinking. Because the hot water feels so incredibly soothing on our aching joints, we tend to stay in there longer. 10 minutes turns into 15. 15 turns into 20. You just stand there, letting the water hit your shoulders, enjoying the quiet. It makes logical sense. Right. If a little heat is good for a sore shoulder, a lot of heat must be better. But combined with the blood pressure drop we just talked about, a long shower can silently drain your energy for the rest of the day. Have you ever noticed that on days you take a really long, hot shower in the morning, you feel like you need a nap by noon? You might think it's just because you didn't sleep well the night before, or you might just blame it on getting older. But quite often, it's because you spent 20 minutes in a humid, oxygen light, high temperature environment. Your heart had to work overtime while you were just standing still. The fatigue isn't just relaxation, it's physical exhaustion. Your body is tired from trying to keep you upright and balanced in a challenging environment. But the heat and the time aren't just affecting your heart and your energy levels. They are fundamentally changing your skin. And this leads us to the third habit that we really need to look at, which is what we are actually using to get clean. Think back to how most of us were raised. We were taught that to be truly clean, you needed a good, strong bar of soap, and you needed to scrub until your skin practically squeaked. The lather, the bubbles, that tight feeling on your skin when you dried off, that was the ultimate proof that you had washed the day away. We bought deodorant soaps, antibacterial bars, and strongly scented washes because that's what cleanliness smelled like. And we keep buying them. We grab the same familiar brands off the grocery store shelf year after year because they are what we know. But here is the quiet truth about aging skin: it doesn't need to be aggressively stripped of its oils anymore. In fact, it desperately needs to hold on to whatever natural moisture it has left. As we age, our skin goes through a very quiet transformation. It naturally becomes thinner. The glands that used to produce an abundance of oil, sometimes too much oil when we were teenagers, start to slow way down. The outer layer of your skin, which acts like a protective weatherproofing barrier for your whole body, becomes delicate, almost like fine parchment paper. When you take that strong, heavily scented, or antibacterial bar of soap, you aren't just washing away dirt. You are effectively stripping away the very last traces of that essential protective oil barrier. And when you do that under a stream of hot water, which is already melting away your skin's natural lipids, you are leaving your skin completely defenseless. This is the exact reason why you might be lying in bed at night, feeling an intense, maddening itch on your lower legs, your arms, or your back. You scratch and scratch, but there's no rash, no bug bite, nothing visible at all. It's just an invisible, deep itch. That's not just a random annoyance of getting older. That is your skin desperately screaming for moisture because its natural protective shield was washed down the drain an hour earlier. We keep trying to fix the itch by washing more, thinking maybe we aren't clean enough, when in reality, the way we are washing is the very thing causing the problem, which ties directly into the fourth habit. Something that goes hand in hand with our soap choices, the way we actually physically wash our bodies. Many of us are deeply attached to our washcloths, our natural loofahs, or those mesh shower poofs. There's a certain satisfaction in a good, firm scrub. We were taught to scrub the dirt away, But as that skin barrier gets thinner and more fragile after the age of 60, friction becomes the enemy. When you drag a rough washcloth or a coarse loofah over your arms and legs, you might think you are just exfoliating. But what you are often doing to mature skin is creating thousands of microscopic tears. You can't see them with the naked eye, but they are there. These tiny, invisible abrasions allow moisture to escape rapidly and allow irritants from your clothes or your environment to get in. It creates a chronic state of low-grade inflammation. Your skin at this stage of life doesn't need to be scoured like a dirty frying pan. It needs to be treated like a fine, vintage silk garment. It needs a gentle touch, using just your bare hands or an incredibly soft, plush cloth, along with a mild, fragrance-free, cream-based cleanser is usually more than enough to get you perfectly clean without tearing down the walls of your skin's immune defense. It's a strange thing to wrap our minds around. The idea that we have to be gentle with ourselves. We spend so much of our lives being tough, pushing through discomfort, and sticking to the routines that kept us disciplined and orderly. Letting go of the scalding water, the 20-minute soak, the squeaky clean soap, and the rough washcloth can almost feel like we are lowering our standards. But it's not about lowering standards at all. It's about being smart enough to listen to the new signals your body is sending you. And these habits, the water, the soap, the scrubbing, they are really just the beginning of the story. Because what happens next, the moment you turn that water off and prepare to step out into the cooler air of the bathroom, is where a whole new set of hidden risks comes into play. Things we do in the exact moment of transition, things that seem so small and automatic, can actually be the difference between feeling steady and secure and experiencing a moment of real vulnerability. Think about the exact moment you turn the water off. The sound of the spray stops, leaving a sudden quiet in the room. You reach for your towel, and perhaps you bend down to dry your legs, or you turn quickly to grab your robe from the hook on the back of the door. This brings us to the fifth habit, one that is entirely about movement and timing. Yet it's something we rarely give a second thought to. For decades, you've moved in the shower without thinking about gravity or blood flow. If you dropped the soap, you just bent over and picked it up. If you needed to wash your toes, you folded yourself in half, scrubbed, and stood right back up. But have you ever done that recently? Bent down in the hot shower to rinse your ankles, and when you stood back up, the bathroom seemed to tilt just a little bit. Maybe your vision went a tiny bit fuzzy around the edges, or you felt a sudden, heavy rush in your head, forcing you to reach out and put a hand against the wet tile just to steady yourself. We often brush that off. We blink a few times, take a breath, and tell ourselves we just moved a little too fast. And while that's technically true, what's actually happening inside your body is a fascinating piece of biological plumbing that you need to be aware of. Remember in part 1, when we talked about how the hot water causes your blood vessels to dilate and widen? A lot of your blood flow naturally pools down in your legs due to gravity. When you bend over and then suddenly stand straight up, your heart needs to quickly pump that blood all the way back up to your brain. When we were younger, our blood vessels were incredibly elastic and responsive. they would snap to attention instantly, squeezing the blood upward. But as we get into our late 60s and beyond, those vessels are a bit stiffer. The reflexes are a fraction of a second slower. When you stand up quickly in a hot, steamy environment, your heart simply cannot get the blood back up to your head fast enough. That momentary drop in blood pressure is what causes the dizziness. In the medical world, it's a known phenomenon, but in everyday life, it's just a quiet danger waiting to happen. The bathroom is arguably the worst place in the house to have a dizzy spell. It's full of hard surfaces, sharp corners, and slippery floors. The fix for this isn't to stop washing your feet. Of course, the adjustment is simply about changing your rhythm. It's about recognizing that you can no longer move like a teenager on a basketball court when you are in a hot, wet environment. If you bend down, do it slowly. When you stand up, do it in stages. Let your body catch up to your movements. Better yet, bring a small, sturdy, the shower-safe stool into the tub with you. Sitting down to wash your lower half entirely removes the risk of that sudden shift in gravity. It might feel like a concession at first, an admission that you aren't as agile as you used to be. But in reality, it's a brilliant, proactive way to protect your independence. Now, while you are standing there, being mindful of your movements, take a moment to look around the room itself. Specifically, look at your bathroom mirror. Is it completely fogged over? Are the walls dripping with condensation? This leads us right into the sixth habit that many seniors stubbornly cling to, sealing up the bathroom like a waterproof vault. Nobody likes being cold when they are wet. It is a universally uncomfortable feeling. So, what is our natural instinct? Before we even turn the water on, we shut the bathroom door tightly. We make sure the window is completely closed. We might even leave the exhaust fan off because it creates a slight draft, or simply because it's noisy and ruins the peace and quiet. We intentionally create a sealed, steamy microclimate. It feels wonderful and warm while the water is running. But let's think about what you are actually breathing in. When you fill a small, enclosed room with thick, hot steam, you are displacing the clean, crisp oxygen in the air. The air becomes heavy, dense, and incredibly humid. If you've ever stepped out of the shower feeling like you just ran a short race, feeling slightly winded, or like you need to sit down on the edge of the tub just to catch your breath, you might have blamed it on your heart or your lungs. You might have thought, my goodness, I'm really out of shape. But very often, it's not that you are out of shape. It's that you have spent the last 15 minutes doing a physical activity, washing and scrubbing, standing in an environment that has a significantly lower percentage of available oxygen. Your lungs are working harder to pull in the air they need, and your heart is working harder to circulate that thinner oxygen through a body that is already dealing with dilated blood vessels from the heat. It is a perfect storm for fatigue. It might seem counterintuitive to let a little cooler air in, but cracking the bathroom door just an inch or leaving the exhaust fan on is like throwing a lifeline to your lungs. It keeps the air circulating. It gives your body the oxygen it needs to handle the stress of the heat. You don't have to freeze yourself, but you do need to make sure the room you are in is actually breathable. And speaking of giving your body what it needs, let's talk about timing. Specifically, when you choose to take that shower. This is the seventh habit that feels completely harmless, yet it quietly wreaks havoc on how you feel. For many people, the evening shower is a deeply ingrained ritual. You have a nice, heavy dinner. Maybe you watch a little television. And then, right before getting into bed, you take a hot shower to wash the day off and relax your muscles for sleep. It's a sequence of events that feels incredibly logical, but your body's internal resource management system sees it very differently. When you eat a large meal, say, a hearty piece of meat, some potatoes, or a rich pasta dish, your body has to redirect a massive amount of its blood flow straight to your stomach and your digestive tract. Digestion takes a tremendous amount of energy and circulation. Your body is heavily focused on breaking down that food. Now, imagine what happens when you take that body, which is already working hard on digestion, and you put it under a stream of hot water. As we established earlier, the hot water immediately demands that blood flow be sent outward to the surface of your skin to help cool you down. Suddenly, your body is caught in a profound physiological tug-of-war. Your stomach is demanding blood to process dinner. Your skin is demanding blood to handle the heat of the shower. And your heart is caught in the middle, trying to satisfy both demands at once. When you force your body to multitask like this, neither job gets done well. Your digestion slows down, which can lead to uncomfortable bloating, acid reflux, or that heavy, unsettled feeling in your stomach when you finally lie down in bed. At the same time, because your skin isn't getting all the blood it needs, and your brain is being slightly shortchanged, the risk of feeling dizzy or faint in the shower increases significantly. The solution is wonderfully simple, yet it requires breaking a long-standing routine. If you love a warm shower before bed, simply wait. Give your body at least an hour, preferably 2. After a heavy meal, before you step into the heat, let your digestive system finish its heavy lifting first. You will be amazed at how much more energetic you feel stepping out of the shower, and how much more comfortably you sleep when you aren't forcing your body into a circulatory conflict. So, let's say you've navigated all of this perfectly. You kept the water warm, not scalding. You moved slowly. You left the door cracked for some fresh air. You didn't just eat a heavy meal. You turned the water off, and you reach for your towel. This brings us to the 8th habit, and it happens in the 3 minutes immediately following your shower. It's about how we dry off. When we are young, drying off is a quick, aggressive affair. We rub a rough towel briskly up and down our arms and legs, throw the towel over the shower rod, put on our clothes, and we are done. And many of us carry that exact same quick rub technique into our 60s, 70s, and beyond. But as we age, the geography of our bodies changes. It's a natural, beautiful, and inevitable part of living a long life. Our skin loses some of its elasticity. It begins to drape differently. We develop new folds, creases, and overlapping areas that simply weren't there 20 years ago under the arms, beneath the breasts, around the groin, or between the toes. When you do a quick, surface level, you might feel dry on your arms and your chest, but those deeper folds and creases often remain slightly damp, and this is where a very quiet, very annoying problem begins to take root. When moisture is trapped in a warm, dark, enclosed space on your body, especially if you immediately put on a heavy bathrobe or a layer of tight clothing, it creates a microscopic greenhouse. It becomes the absolute perfect environment for things that naturally live on our skin, like yeast and certain bacteria, to multiply out of control. Have you ever developed a sudden, burning red rash under your arm, or in the crease of your groin, or underneath a fold of skin? It feels raw. It itches intensely, and it can take weeks to heal. Many older adults feel incredibly embarrassed when this happens. They think it's a failure of hygiene, that perhaps they aren't keeping themselves clean enough. But the truth is, it has absolutely nothing to do with being dirty. It is entirely an issue of moisture management. It is a drying failure, not a washing failure. To prevent this, we have to change the way we use our towels. The brisk, aggressive rubbing has to stop, not only because it tears at fragile skin, but because it misses the hidden spots. Drying aging skin requires patience and a patting motion. You have to consciously take the towel and gently pat it into every single crease and fold. You have to make sure there is no lingering dampness before you put your clothes on. Some dermatologists even recommend using a hairdryer on a completely cool setting to gently blow air into those hard-to-reach folds, just to be absolutely certain they are bone dry. It might feel a bit tedious. It adds another 2 minutes to your routine, but those 2 minutes can save you from a month of burning, itching discomfort, and costly visits to the skin doctor. As you finish drying off, there are 2 final habits, 2 crucial steps that dictate not only how your skin will feel for the rest of the day, but whether you will remain safe in the bathroom at all. These last 2 mistakes are perhaps the most common of all, simply because they involve trusting our memories of how things used to be, rather than looking at the reality of how things are today. So, there you are. You have turned off the water. You have stepped away from the stream, and you are standing on the wet bath mat, gently patting yourself dry. Instead of aggressively rubbing your skin, you are doing everything right. But this exact moment, the transition from the wet shower floor to the dry bathroom tile, is where the 9th habit comes into play. It is a habit rooted in sheer, stubborn confidence, and it is perhaps the single most physically risky thing we do in our homes. I am talking about our absolute reliance on muscle memory and our quiet refusal to give ourselves a solid point of contact. Think about how you step out of a bathtub or a shower. For your entire adult life, you have probably just lifted one leg, shifted your weight, balanced perfectly on the other foot for a fraction of a second, and stepped over the ledge. You didn't have to think about it. Your brain mapped out that movement tens of thousands of times. You just did it. But muscle memory is a tricky thing as we age. Your brain still holds the exact blueprint of how that movement felt when you were 40. It confidently sends the signal to your legs. Lift and step, but your joints are a little stiffer now. Your center of gravity has shifted subtly over the years. And As we discussed earlier, your blood pressure might be slightly lower from the hot water, making you just a tiny bit less anchored to the ground than you realize. What happens when you rely entirely on that old muscle memory in a wet, slippery environment? You reach out for balance without even realizing it. Watch yourself the next time you step out of the shower. Notice what your hands do. Almost unconsciously, you will reach out to grab something to steady yourself. But what are you grabbing for most people? It's the edge of a glass shower door, or it's the porcelain rim of the sink, or, most dangerously of all, it's the towel rack screwed into the drywall. We put our full, shifting body weight onto objects that were never designed to hold a human being. A towel rack is built to hold a damp piece of cotton, not 150 pounds of a person losing their balance. When that rack pulls out of the wall, or when that wet hand slips off the edge of the sink, the fall is sudden, and the bathroom floor is unforgiving. Why do we do this? Why do we trust a flimsy towel bar instead of installing a proper, anchored grab bar inside? For a lot of older adults, the resistance isn't about the cost or the installation. It's entirely about what a grab bar represents. We look at those thick metal bars, and we think of hospitals. We think of nursing homes. We think, if I put that in my beautiful bathroom, I am officially admitting that I am old and frail. We let our pride over the aesthetics of our bathroom dictate our safety. But we need to completely change how we look at this. A grab bar is not a symbol of decline. It is a tool for preserving your independence. It is an anchor that allows you to confidently use your bathroom without fear. Think of it like a handrail on a staircase. You wouldn't dream of walking up a steep set of wooden stairs without a handrail, regardless of how strong your legs are. It's just common sense. The shower ledge is no different. Giving yourself a proper, solid point of contact before you lift that leg. It is outsmarting the environment. It's acknowledging that your body deserves a safe, secure space to operate in. Once you have a real handle to hold on to, you will be shocked at how much tension leaves your shoulders, simply because you are no longer subconsciously afraid of slipping. And once you are safely out, standing on the mat, completely secure, we arrive at the 10th and final habit. This is the one that dictates whether you will spend the rest of the day feeling comfortable in your own skin, or dealing with that maddening, invisible itch. It's all about the bottle of moisturizer sitting on your bathroom counter, and more importantly, exactly when you choose to use it. For the vast majority of us, applying lotion is the very last step in a long grooming routine. We dry off. We wrap a towel around our hair. We might shave. We brush our teeth. We apply deodorant. We let our bodies completely air dry. We wait until our skin feels tight. And then, finally, we pump some lotion into our hands and rub it in. Logically, this makes sense. You don't want to put lotion on wet skin, right? It feels greasy and slippery. But when it comes to mature skin, waiting until you are completely dry is a fundamental misunderstanding of how moisturizer actually works. Many people believe that lotion adds moisture to the skin. It actually doesn't. Your skin is practically waterproof from the outside in. You can't just push water back into it with a cream. What a good moisturizer actually does is act as a sealant. It is a barrier. Its entire job is to trap the moisture that is already inside your skin and prevent it from evaporating into the air. When you step out of the shower, your skin is plump and saturated with water. But because the natural oil barrier of your skin is thinner now, that hydration starts evaporating the second you step into the cooler air of the bathroom. If you wait 10 or 15 minutes to apply your lotion, if you wait until your skin is bone dry and starting to feel a little tight, you have missed the window. The moisture is already gone. At that point, putting on lotion is like closing the barn door after the horses have already run away. You are just smearing a layer of cream on top of dehydrated skin. It might feel a little softer to the touch, but deep down, the skin is still thirsty, and that deep itch will return by nightfall. Dermatologists call it the 3-minute rule. The golden window for mature skin is the 3 minutes immediately after you pat yourself dry. Your skin should still feel slightly damp to the touch, not dripping wet, but holding on to that fresh humidity. That is the exact moment you need to apply a gentle, fragrance-free cream. When you apply it to damp skin, the moisturizer locks in that surface water. It seals the gaps. It rebuilds that invisible wall that the hot water temporarily melted away. It's a tiny shift in your timeline, just moving the lotion bottle to the front of the line. Before you brush your teeth, before you do your hair. But that one small adjustment can completely transform the texture of your skin. It can be the difference between waking up in the middle of the night, scratching your shins, and sleeping soundly through the night. When we look back at all of this, the temperature of the water, the time spent standing there, the harshness of the soap, the friction of the towel, the sudden movements, the lack of a secure grip, and the timing of the lotion, it can feel like a lot. It might feel like we are overcomplicating something as simple as taking a bath, but it's not about complication. It is about awareness. For decades, your body was resilient enough to handle whatever routine you threw at it. You didn't have to think about blood pressure dropping in the heat, or the microscopic tears from a washcloth, or the exact minute you applied your cream. Your body just quietly cleaned up the mess and kept moving. But as we cross into our late 60s, our 70s, and beyond, our bodies ask for a different kind of relationship. They ask for a little more respect. They ask for us to pay attention to the quiet signals, the slight dizziness, the dry patches, the sudden fatigue. Instead of just powering through them, changing these deep-rooted habits doesn't mean you are losing your edge. It doesn't mean you are getting weak. It means you are getting wiser. It means you understand that the manual you used to operate your body at 35 needs a few updates at 65. When you lower the water temperature just a few degrees, when you sit down to wash your feet, when you use your bare hands instead of a rough sponge, and when you give yourself a sturdy bar to hold on to, you are doing something profound. You are telling your body, I hear you. I recognize that things are different now, and I am going to take care of you the right way. The next time you walk into that bathroom and reach for the handle, pause for just a second. Don't just go into autopilot. Remember that this room doesn't have to be a place that drains your energy or puts you at risk. With just a few small, thoughtful adjustments to the routines you've held on to for so long. You can turn that daily shower back into what it was always meant to be, a place of true comfort, genuine safety, and deep, restorative care.